Good afternoon, everyone. And as you know, my name is Zenzi Sewa, and I'm here in London. And my guest today is Michael Stone, who is a spiritual author, a spiritual teacher, shamanic practitioner, so many other things, but he's going to talk about that himself. And Michael is in California. So he said hello to me. I've said hello to him, but it's afternoon here and it's morning where he's quite early in the morning, 8 o'clock. So I'm really pleased and grateful that he's able to join me on the program today. So without much ado, I would like to say hello, Michael. How are you? And
Hi,
welcome.
Zenzi. Hi, Zenzi. I'm fine, and it's really good to be with you. I love your smile and your presence, and it's to say who I am is a long journey. I just turned 80,
Yeah,
so
you do that.
there's a lot of between there. I've written several books. I've been an organizational development consultant for 35 years. I had a radio show for 17 years, Healing the Wounds That Separate, Alienate, and Marginalize Us. I've been on the faculty of the Shift Network, teaching shamanism. I was the host of the Shamanic Wisdom course. So I do a lot of different things. I hold a lot of workshops. I have really focused in the last 10 years on trauma as a spiritual path. And I think that's kind of in line more with what your themes are and where you're looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's coming up more and more because my guest previously was also a trauma coach, and he is seeing a lot of this coming up and he's working with it. So, Michael, how did you start? What led you to this spiritual path? Something in your youth, something in your teenager? What's your story?
Oh boy, my story. Okay. Uh, so first of all, let me start. Both my parents were at Pearl Harbor. My father was a fighter pilot. My mother was in the Women's Air Force, assistant to the head of the Pacific Fleet, actually, when the bombing came. They couldn't get any planes off the ground. And that was really the beginning of my trauma work. I didn't even know it, which happened in utero in some ways. My mother was pregnant, right? I was born right before the two atomic bombs were dropped,
Oh gosh.
and at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And so I was born into war, so to speak. And both my parents were heavily affected by the war. My father just pretty much shut down and disappeared. My mother became more and more mentally ill in the first 2.5 years of my life. She tried to kill me numerous times, putting a pillow over my face if I cried. My father and grandfather had to take a knife away from her several times. She just lost it, really. And then at 2.5, I found her hanging. And so that's my start of my story, which I've chronicled in my latest book is Traumatized: A Love Story, Healing the
Oh,
Wounds That Separate, Alienate, and Marginalize Us. So it's a combination of a memoir and a self-help book for people to work with their own trauma. And I'm very
okay.
proud of the book because I get a lot of response. People say, I thought I was reading a book about you, but when I got done, I realized I was reading a book about me. And that's
Oh,
been a consistent comment that has been in the comments. You'll see on Amazon if you go to buy the book, a
that's
lot
so
of
good.
comments.
That's so
Yeah.
good. Good.
So that was the beginning of my life. It didn't get any better from there. I was I was shipped around to different places after my mother's suicide. My family, in the 40s, mental illness was something to hide. So it was just like there was a mother and there was no mother, and it was never talked about again,
Oh,
like it didn't happen. Um, My father disappeared, so I stayed with different families. Then my father appeared and remarried his first wife, who he had left to marry my mother, and
Okay.
dropped me off on the doorstep. So here's the bastard son with the other son, who's 3 years older, with a highly alcoholic, very wealthy woman in Hawaii. You can imagine how that turned out.
Mm,
Uh, a lot of fear, a lot of just
more trauma.
alcohol, and a lot of trauma. And my father disappeared again.
Oh,
So that was a year that I was in Hawaii at the three to 3.5 age, something like that. Um, and then my father appeared, who I really didn't know. So at 4 years old, I went with my father, got on a plane. He had gotten out of the Air Force and he bought a bar in San Francisco on Maiden Lane. So it was a very high-end, fancy place. And I lived in a bar for a year. And I have to tell you, Zenzi, it was the happiest time of my life.
do you know,
Uh,
somehow I thought you was going to say that. When you said that,
it was the most memorable time of my life. I was 4 to 5.5, 4.5 to 5.5 in that age range. And of course, my father was the dashing war hero, and he would hold court at the bar. And all the
oh
women
yeah,
who wanted to get to my father were like, oh, it's better than having a dog, having a young child. So they're like, oh, saying the chef, I slept in the back in the restaurant, and the chef took care of me, and it just had a wonderful year. And
well,
and
imagine.
yeah, and then my father all of a sudden announces he's selling that. He's taking a commission back in the Air Force, so he's back in the Air Force again. So
Okay,
off we go to New York, and uh, you know uh, suddenly he's not around anymore. There's lots of babysitters. There was also what I thought was, a in the book I talk about it. This one babysitter I really loved. She was really great, and at bath time she would wrap me up in a towel and play with my pee-pee. And I thought all good mothers do this. I thought that was a good thing.
oh my Lord.
So then, all of a sudden, and he's gone, and um, and he comes back and he says, "I'm getting married again." So this would be
Oh,
marriage uh, three, number
yeah,
three. Well, twice to one woman, and
yeah,
then my mother, and then this one. So four, but two of them are
yeah,
twice.
yeah.
So I don't even know who this woman is. I was hoping it was being the woman that wrapped me in the towel. That would be pretty great, but it wasn't. Uh, it was probably to the end of her life, the most unfeeling, angry, uh, and just, well, guess what her maiden name was? You'll never
Not evil,
guess.
not evil.
Charles Dickens would pay me money for this name. For the horrible stepmother. Her name was Severe.
Oh, severe.
She was
Oh,
severe.
Jean Severe.
I laugh about it now, but it was pretty horrible, I'll tell you. And so my father marries her and leaves for 2 years for Japan on duty. And
And
I'm
leaves you with this woman.
with this woman.
Oh my
But
God.
luckily, she lived with her parents, so her parents were actually quite nice to me. She just kind of disappeared for the 2 years, but I spent 2 years with them. Then I started into first grade in Waldorf school. They were kind of progressive people in New York, and that was a great experience. Um, and then my father comes back after 2 years. Uh, and all of a sudden we're moving back to California.
All right.
And still in the Air Force. And we get back, and I think, oh, that's great. I'll see the people in the bar. I'll see my grandfather and aunt who I loved. But we were in San Bernardino, the other end of California, which is a long way away.
Wait. What happened to Severe?
Oh, she was with she went past my father's death, and after the death, her final blow was to cut me out of the will, which was quite substantial at the end of my father's life, and leave it to her cousin. That was the last like jab that she had. So
so you were at
anyway,
the bar.
So we were at the bar, then I was with that. Then I went to school. Then my father moved back to California, and I was just a rebel. You know, I was getting into trouble all the time. I wanted somebody to pay attention to me. So I started getting in trouble really early, stealing things, blowing things up. You know, so then I got sent to military school. So I started in the 5th grade being in military school, a private boys' school called Mount Low, and they got rid of me, but I continued to get into trouble. Then we moved again, another move, and somehow someone told my father, you should get him a dog. So I got a dog, and I loved this dog. It was a Cocker Spaniel, and you can see him on the cover of my book. That Cocker Spaniel, that's my father flying overhead.
Yes.
and so I get this Cocker Spaniel, and Senzi, it was my entire world. I had, you know, just I stopped stealing. I stopped getting into trouble. I stopped yelling at and arguing with my stepmother. It was really great. And for 6 or 8 months or so, I left out an interesting part, but I had this dog. Anyway, it would climb over the barbecue and follow me to school.
Okay.
And I you know, I kept telling him, don't do this, you know, you're gonna get us in trouble. So my father or my stepmother, one of the other, tied him up. And I came home from school, and I was coming down the alley, and I saw something hanging on the fence. And it was my dog. So that was worse than finding my mother hanging, because I was now, you know, 6, 7 years old, right? And devastated. So I went back to being a crazy wild child. And one of the things, that happened, the other thing, so I'm building up the trauma story to tell you I'm not just somebody who talks about trauma.
No.
I want you to know I didn't learn it all from books, although I got plenty of that, but later on. Another thing, leaving Waldorf school and going to public school in San Bernardino, and I'm first day, and the teacher is this overbearing, heavyweight, you know, woman. I think she should have been a nun probably, because she was like that kind of energy. And I was bored, and I saw a train set, and I got up and I looked around, and I said, oh, this train set, I want to go check it out. And before I knew it, she was towering over me, and she said, young man, sit down. And then she pushes me in this chair, and she ties me in the chair in the front of the whole class, right? And they're all laughing, and I'm like, you know, shame and embarrassment coming up, and I'm tied in this chair. And then she turns around, and not to be outdone, I start hopping my chair, you know, when she's walking away. And all the kids start laughing. Then she really loses it. She comes back, tears she'd actually tied me with rags to the chair, and she tears them off, grabs me by the ear, and takes me to the principal's office. So just total humiliation. But one other part, I don't remember exactly what I said, but before the ear, I called her either a fat slob or a stupid bitch. So,
Oh,
just to add a little bit to.
wait, Michael, how old were you when all this happened?
I was 7.
Oh
Yeah,
my
I was
gosh.
7. So yeah, I'm just giving you some early highlights here. So then um, another incident. I was borrowing my father's car when they drank a lot. I went out and borrowed my father's car, and I learned to drive by myself, and stole the cars. Uh, and it got much worse. Then I ended up I made this model. All this is in my book. I made this model of a forest a big aircraft carrier. And my father was yelling at me one night. He turned around and I hit him over the head with it and smashed it
Oh,
into a million pieces. And off I went to military school again, this time in Boonville, Missouri. So that was kind of the beginning of the story. I'll tell you what happened because I want to really get into the spiritual part. I tell this very lightly because I've really integrated and it's just what happened. But uh, the in I then I went to Europe. I was in the army for 2 years. I was just pretty chaotic, but I was also, you know, learning a lot. And when I went to Europe and was traveling, got really interested in Hermann Hesse and many of the writers at that time that were really bringing forth a new kind of revolution. I came back from Europe after hitchhiking around and then spending 2 years in the army. And I came back to California. Um, and I did this thing called the S training, later called landmark education.
oh yes, I've heard of it.
And that was 1972. And there's a long story of how I got there and everything, but I signed up for it as soon as I heard about it. And it was 2 weekends. And I remember the first weekend walking out in San Francisco and walking down the streets. And my first real insight is, you mean I'm responsible for my own effing life?
Big shot.
Because I was totally felt victimized, right? From my experiences, like life was doing it to me. And I began to realize that life wasn't doing it to me, life was moving through me if I let it.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the beginning of my spiritual path. Then I had gotten married. I brought her over. We decided it wasn't working. I had spent 2 years after my marriage in Europe. And then I fell madly in love. I married a woman that was also involved in the work. I began teaching the workshops and seminars and things for Landmark. And I met this amazing woman and we got together. And then she took a job with Levi's in Carmel, California. And someone broke into the house and she was raped and murdered. So that was the next big trauma. And then that trauma, the police knew who did it. They thought they thought they were put him away. The case went south. The guy got off on a hung jury. So I was then now with a 4-year-old child as a single father, and who had lost her mother in this way, and me. So I'm going to jump way ahead. 42 years later, I had some people had started a gossip that I had killed my wife, that I was that I had killed my wife, that I was a child molester, and that I was a womanizer. And it spread in my town. And most people who knew me, because I was very active in the community and a teacher, But many people, I'd meet them and I know, oh God, they've heard this story. And it was a prominent political person that was saying this. She's been pretty, removed from the scene. But I said, I can't take this. So I moved to Canada. My mother was Canadian, so I could be a Canadian. I'm a Canadian American passport. I just moved to Canada. So I was there for 7 years, had a wonderful relationship, and things were going well. And I get this call 40 years after the murder. Hello, this is Officer Wilson. I wanted you to know we're reopening the case on your wife's murder. I went, what? 40 years later, Zenzi, I come back to California. We spent
You see
2
my
years. Yeah, exactly. 2 years we spent in the case. They finally put the guy away on DNA evidence after 42 years. He's
yes,
now serving life without parole.
Started to come into play then that they could do that. Oh, wow.
DNA, because they didn't have that in 1981.
No, they didn't have it. So science has moved forward and helped. Oh, gosh.
So meanwhile, all this time, I was doing personal growth work, trying to heal the parts of me that felt broken, felt like I didn't belong, that I was unlovable, that, all of the stuff that comes with early trauma. Yes. And so I went through, I ended up being a consultant, and I had a consulting firm that was doing quite well. And I had a course called Presence, Power, and Performance, which was a lot of my personal growth work coming into the corporate world. I loved doing that. Then I got interested in shamanism, and I was on the Shift Network, and the person talking about shamanism teaching. I was leading the Shamanic Wisdom Summit for 8 years, and I got really interested in soul loss.
Okay.
And soul loss. Well, how do you lose your soul? How do you lose these parts of ourselves that get lost? And so I learned how to do soul retrievals, and I did a lot of soul retrievals over that time. I kind of left the corporate world. I was really fascinated. I spent a lot of time in Peru and Ecuador learning things, studied with and got licensed as a shamanic practitioner. And I was doing these soul retrievals, and they were great, but the people would do something with me and have a great experience, but then they come back a week or a month later, and the same issue would be there. The same thing would be happening. And I go, this is not just about having a good experience. How do you return the parts of the soul that are lost, right?
Permanently.
Yeah. And so I really, that was the time I met Thomas Hübl. I don't know if you know Thomas's work, but Thomas is kind of on the leading edge of trauma. He does a big, every year, there's a huge conference with all the leading experts in the area. And he said this one thing, this was about 10 plus years ago. He said, we're swimming in a sea of trauma, swimming in a sea of trauma. And it was kind of like, oh my God, that's the linchpin for every issue that we have. I suddenly realized and saw, because I'd worked on climate change issues with my radio show, and racism and social justice issues, all the issues that I worked in my, it was all at the heart trauma. Because what happens, people don't really understand what trauma is for the most part. It's, first of all, when we talk about trauma, it's not the thing that happened. It's what happens in us when the thing happens, which is actually really good news, because if it was the thing that happened, we could never heal. But it's not the thing that happened. It's the thing that happened in me, because when I have an overwhelming experience, my nervous system, which has been evolving for hundreds of thousands of years, says, whoa, this is too much for this person. And so in an overwhelming situation, the nervous system fragments and shuts down a part of our essence, our soul. part of our essence, and it fragments and becomes tension and numbness in the body. So trauma is not mental, it's physical. That was a huge revelation for me. In order to actually integrate and heal the wounding from the past, you have to go to the body and feel the emotions and sensations that happened at that time. So that naturally integrates. The hardest part for people is they want to get to the ideal place. They don't want to deal with the fear or the anger or rage or overwhelm. They want to get to, I want to get rid of this and I want to have
Yeah.
this. I want to
Yeah.
have the happy life.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you got to get over this first. You can't do it. That's the shadow. This
Yeah.
is the shadow. Parts
Yeah.
that we don't want to touch, that we don't want to see, and we certainly don't want anybody else to see, right?
We have to
So
face them.
that's the journey then. So I've been perfecting and working with how can I heal trauma. So one of the things that I've been doing is trauma circles. So I work with individual patients, I work with couples, but I love working in circles. And here's why. We are wounded in relationship. And so it makes sense to me, always made sense, that if we were wounded in relationship, we should be able to heal in relationship. Because my ability to self-regulate, in other words, regulate my emotions, my experiences, not be triggered all the time, my
Yeah.
ability to self-regulate has to first be in the beginning with someone who can co-regulate, a parent, a loving person to co-regulate and look me in the eye and see me, feel me, hold me, protect me. Then that's how I individuate. I become not an individual, but I become individuate. I mature as I grow. And so if I wasn't felt seen, heard, held, or protected as a child,
Mm-hmm.
well, I wasn't able to regulate my own body, my own emotions.
Of course, because if you didn't receive that, you won't know how to give that. It's
Exactly.
like you cannot, and this is what I've said this before to when I'm talking, you cannot yearn for a strawberry if you've never known a strawberry. You can
Yeah.
only yearn for that which you know.
Yeah.
And
I have
therefore,
another way of saying that. You can't feel what you can't feel.
yeah,
You can't heal what you can't feel. So if you're numb, you can't heal it.
this is
You
it.
have to,
You have
yeah,
to feel it, you have to experience it so that you know what it is you need to
exactly.
transform that feeling.
Yeah, yeah.
So true.
And transform, people look at transform as something you're doing. It's not a doing. It's a connecting with.
Yeah.
I deepen my ability to sense and to feel. Because there's two ways to know people, right? I'm over here, Senzi's over there in London, right? So I know you over there in London, and there's some, feeling of, oh yeah, I see you, and I can feel, but a much more real way to know people is I'm over here in my nervous system, and I can feel you over there in your nervous system, and I can even feel you feeling me in my nervous system. And
Yes.
here's the punchline, my capacity to know you is directly correlated to my capacity to know and feel myself.
Yes. So well said.
Yeah.
So well said, Michael. Thank you. That is
Mm,
so beautifully said.
yeah. So healing is one of the big things. And here's another thing, we're living in a world that's speeding up, you know, because when I'm feeling you and you're feeling me, that's information, it's energy, it's data.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So your movement, I'm movement, and the data moves between us. But
Yes.
what's happening in the world is that everything is speeding up
Yeah.
and we're speeding up with it. You know, the
Yes.
movement of it is much faster. So the
Yes.
first thing to working with trauma is to soften and slow down. To soften and slow down. Feel the earth, feel our body, soften. And so when I begin to do that, I create more inner space. The more inner space I have, the more creativity, the more insight, the more innovation, the more capacity I have because I create inner space.
Yeah.
And space is like the paper that the book of life is written on.
Yes.
If I don't have any paper, I can't write the book of life. So space is the paper that I write my story on as I'm living it moment to moment to moment. I like to tell people I live as a verb, not as a noun. And this is especially true with in relationships. So I do a relational intimacy course. It's one of my big areas that I work with is relationships, but not just relationships like a partner, but relating. So in relationships, so many people come to me and they're living side by side. And when I say, you know, I'm living in it, I have a relationship with someone, what does that actually mean? And how do I know I'm in a relationship with somebody? I can only know I'm in a relationship with somebody if I look at the past. So I'm always looking and building more past of how I relate to my partner. So pretty much, oh, I know you, and everybody knows how mother is and the twins are, and but we only know them from what happened in the past. That's a relationship. It's dead. Relationships are dead. But what if I'm actually always relating?
Yeah.
That's a verb. So relationship is a noun. It's dead. It's like person, place, or thing. We learned that in 5th grade, right? But if I'm a verb, I'm
And
always like I'm relating. I'm relating. I'm bringing myself into a state of presence. I see you, I feel you, and I discover you newly. You're with a partner maybe, and you're laying in bed, and you wake up, and oh, hi, honey. Would you brush your teeth? It's kind of dead, right? It's kind of dead. But what if I woke up and I went, whoa, who is this person lying next to me? What amazing things am I going to discover about her or him today? I'm going to
yeah.
spend the rest of my life finding out who you are because I don't know who you are, and I'm going to discover you today newly. What kind of relationship would that be like?
Exciting.
Yeah, really. Right?
Yes. Something to look forward to. It's a much brighter and lighter and more energetic. It's like an adventure.
Yeah. We have to get curious. We have to bring a sense of wonder and awe, and mystery, the mystery of you. How can I discover the mystery of you? And that to me is a spiritual path. I'm always looking to discover the mystery of life. And that
Yeah.
is me connecting with the divine in myself, looking at and discovering the divine in you.
Yeah.
Mm,
That is so beautiful. That
mm.
is really so beautiful. So, Michael, with all that you've gone through, all that you've experienced, and it's brought you to this point, and it's brought you to do such wonderful work. What is it that you find? You're working with so many different people, and you've got so many. What do you find is a common factor apart from trauma? When people come to you looking for help, what's the common factor?
Mm. Well, the first thing that comes up is that we all want to feel connected, and we're all scared to death of being connected. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things that's really in the heart of we want to connect, but we have all these stories, and the stories we have are adaptation, a lot of it to our early childhood.
Yeah.
Because let's say my parents were fighting and always, angry, and I'm a little child, and I can see something's wrong and I want to help. So I try to help and I get smacked for it or something like that. Or I, connect and side with the mother and then separate, which throws the system out of balance, the
Yeah.
family system out of balance. So as I'm trying to do that, I have to adapt. The first thing I say is they're fighting, something's wrong, but I never make my caregivers wrong because my survival's dependent on them. So
Yeah.
I say something's wrong with me,
Yeah.
and I become the fixer. I become the smart one. I become the prettier one. I become the helper. And that often leads me on my career later. I become a therapist or a nurse or, I mean, look, here I am helping people to deal with trauma. Well, I had to adapt in very traumatic situations. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I'm a white privileged male in many ways. I when I look at my story and I look at what's happening in Gaza today or in Sudan or so many places around the world, I feel very privileged and very much like I've been handed a gift. But at the same time, I also feel I have a responsibility because of the fact that I've been gifted. And
Yeah.
so to get back to the question, so that is my calling. And in my book, I have a whole thing about purpose and calling as we get into the deeper teachings of the book. And so, um, the common thing is that we don't know that we live in a traumatized world, and it's not just individual trauma. It's ancestral trauma. So
Yeah.
much of our trauma is handed down generation to generation to generation. It's also collective trauma. We live in a
Yes.
field here. I went back to Canada a couple of weeks ago, and it's been insane here in the politically and what's happening in the United States. It's just you know it's in the field, it's in the culture. I drove through the Peace Arch into Vancouver, and my shoulders, I swear, dropped 2 inches.
Oh,
I didn't know my shoulders were up, but they dropped because the tension in the field of the United States is so high that everybody is on high alert or they're numb, which are trauma symptoms being recreated, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So when I'm working with somebody, it's really important to not just work with the individual or even the family, but to work with the ancestors and to work with the future beings and to work with the culture. So we're looking for fluidity between ancestral, individual, and collective trauma. And the first step is getting trauma informed. And that's what I do. And by the way, if people get my book, which again, I'll say, Traumatized: A Love Story. Okay, you have to plug my book. But if you buy the book, you are invited to a weekly 1 hour with me for free. Price of a book, $20. And you get a free hour with our group with a meditation and a teaching and then coaching. So it's a really good deal. So I like to let people know. And you just have to go to welloflight.com, and sign up, get the book, and every Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock Pacific time. So your time, 4 in the afternoon, something like that. And yeah, so
That
I go through the healing journey with people in that hour.
so it's a weekly thing, 1 hour every week.
Every week. We just started it last week, so it's a good time to jump into it.
Yeah.
And like I said, just go to welloflight, light.com, and sign up for it. Get the book, because you'll need the book to work with. And we were working, the first one was on um, early child adaptation styles, the different ways that we learn how to adapt in our childhood. And that's actually I record the first part, the teaching, and then the coaching. I cut it off so it'll be a safe space for people to actually work. So the first half hour is recorded. The second part, I turn the camera off so that I can work with people at a deeper level. And people have had, even in the first week, amazing experiences of recognition of what they've been holding on to, that they're stuck to. Yeah.
Okay, and they can get that, and it's www.welloflight.com.
Right, WELLOFLIGHT.com. Yeah.
Good, because definitely I know some people who could do with this. You know, I might even, I'm tuning myself. It's a thing that we all doesn't matter at what level we're at, we all need help from different direction, and as much help we can to sort out things within ourselves. I'm definitely going to get that book because because people don't realize that as much as your coaches or your guys, we are constantly reading, we're constantly learning, we're constantly evolving, and more so constantly learning and working and looking. It never ever stops, because there's so much to be done continually, because we're in this world, we're living this life. And as you quite rightly said, we're in this trauma situation all the way around the world. We're in this sea of trauma, so we're constantly having to look at. And so I say to people, please, welloflight.com, get the book. And I'm going to get it, and you never stop learning, because the man of wisdom or the person of wisdom knows they don't know everything, and they're constantly looking and evolving and taking in, and where necessary they'll take on board and change. The man who thinks they know everything is a foolish person. They're stagnant. Wisdom is never stagnant, it's ever evolving.
Yeah.
So, Michael, you
say one more thing about that, Zenzi. Let me say one more thing that I think is really important. There's no end game. There's no end. It's because healing is getting rid of someday. Someday it's all going to work out. Someday I'll be enlightened. Someday I'm going to be rich. Someday I'm going to... No, this is the end of someday. It's now. It's now. We build a better world in this world, not in some other world. In this world, we build a better world.
Yeah. And I said to my guest yesterday, and I said it on the show, that we are the world. So what we see happening in the world, we need to look closer at home to see what we're doing, because we are the microcosm, the world is the macrocosm, and the world is a reflection of us. And the fact that it's going on, it means that we're not doing, or we're not living the life, or participating in the way we're supposed to, because we can see what's going on out there. And whilst we can say, oh, it's only me, yet everything begins with one, because it's all bits together, and there's billions of us that we need. So we need to start with ourselves and to look closer home and start working. And when we start working on ourselves, it does have a ripple effect.
Absolutely. And you know, one of the things is so our ancestors have a big influence on us, right? Very big influence. There's allegiances, there's contracts, there's all kinds of things we have with the dead. But the dead are dead, they don't have a body. But we have a body. And so healing trauma is about the body. When I heal a part of myself, it becomes integrated, because integrated past is presence. Unintegrated past is destiny. I will keep living the same thing over and over and over until I get it. Right?
Yes. Thank you.
Repetition compulsion. That's why, you know, my friend Terry Real says, we marry our unfinished, he's a very high level therapist. He says, we marry our unfinished business, which is exactly right, because we have that. Then we do the work. We do the work. You know, if you're actually doing that inner work in a relationship and you're relating and being creative and looking, and then a part of me that has been stuck just integrates and it just becomes, that was the past. It's
Yes.
just happened. I don't have, it doesn't have any energy to trigger me and get me upset because it's already, yeah, I already went through that. That's why I can
And
talk about my story. Pardon?
You become lighter.
You become, absolutely, and more space, lighter and more space.
Yeah.
So it ripples back and heals the ancestral stream, though. That's what's amazing. If I heal it here, it all the way back, and it goes forward through our children.
That's right.
They don't have to deal with it there. So this works. This is why I say this is the most spiritual work on the planet.
Yes.
The most important spiritual work we have to do.
Oh, so true, so true. Michael, thank you so much for that. And it is the most important because, as you say, we heal ourselves. It has a ripple effect back generations before us. And if we heal ourselves, we go forward. The generation that's coming won't be in that soup.
Yeah.
And it's cleaner for them. Oh, absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So, Michael, before I say goodbye to you and say thank you so much, leave us with some gold nugget of advice that you can give us to help us to heal or help us to be aware.
Yeah. Well, I think I've said it in some ways, but the practice of softening and slowing down and feeling our body. So many of us, we're all numb and we're all suppressed in many ways. So to be able to stay in my body and be out with you. Now, if people look and see, they will see that often when I'm with you, I'm not here, and when I'm here, I'm not with you. So the first thing is to soften and slow down and say, what am I feeling right now? What emotion is present right now? Because most of us have numbed. We don't know the difference between feelings and emotions. Feelings are of the mind. Emotions are of the body, of the fabric of the body. They work together. But to heal trauma, you have to go to the emotions. So an example of that is happiness. My happiness is a mental. It's like I got the car, I got the woman, I got rid of the man, I got a raise, and I'm happy. So it's dependent on my thinking. But joy, which people often collapse with happiness, joy is an upwelling, a spiritual, like, it's a tree. It's it's whatever it is. It's just like it's not dependent on anything outside of that feeling of just being moved by the mystery of life.
And I like the way you said it's everything is a feeling. Everything is a feeling. It's like you said before, if you don't feel it, you can't heal it. And everything is energy and everything is a feeling.
Yeah.
Michael Stone, thank you so much for coming on today. I know, I'm not saying I hope, I know those who are listening have got a lot of nuggets, they've got a lot of insights, and I'm hoping that those who are listening will have the courage to tune into Michael, but in order to tune in, go and buy his book. Because as he said, yeah, we're in a sea of trauma. It's not just in our life, it's in our society, it's in our world, and we are all a part of that. And it does need work, and it needs work now. We're living in a time where, as he said, things are moving quickly, and we are being pushed and nudged to awaken and to be aware. And so to do that work, we do need to slow down, take time, and work within. But we're being pushed, and we're in a time when there's so many, and this is what my program is doing, to bring so many different people up. There's so many different things we can do to make us aware and help us to heal, to be the force we are. We are it already, but it just needs clearing, and it's already there. You don't have to
Yeah.
look for it, we just have to clean out the muck. It's like having a beautiful mirror that's just full of mud, and you have to get down, bring it out and clean it. You're already beautiful. We're already strong, for we're coming from.
Well said, Zenzi. Thank you. I just want to say again, the book is
Yes.
Traumatized: A Love Story, Healing the
Yes.
Wounds That Separate, Alienate, and Marginalize Us. And you can get it on Amazon or order it through your bookstore. And again, it's welloflight.com, WELLOFLIGHT. Thank you so much for having me on, Zenzi. It's just a privilege to be with you.
No, thank you. And I'm going to put it, when that video goes out, I will put it on the write-up so people will see it. And please, please buy his book. Let's all do the work, so that it's not just making the world better. We have to start with ourselves, and we can have that heaven here on earth. Actually, we can, but it's down to us, individual. So for now, everybody, thank you for joining us. Michael Stone, thank you so much for being with us today. And you in California, it's what time now? What did I say? You're 8 hours behind. So it's what, 2 minutes past in the morning, and it's 2 minutes past 5 in the afternoon in London. And from London to California, bye for now, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Zenzi.